Um, so I want to say a big thank you so much to ProVetLogic for coming on board as a sponsor this year of the online cat conference. I really appreciate it. And I had a great interview with Larry a couple of months ago, and that's how we met. And so it was a privilege. It was an excellent podcast. And if folks haven't heard that podcast, you can feel free to check it out in our podcast listings. It was so amazing that I said, Larry, you have to come to the online cat conference. And so here we are. I will say we've had already some interesting comments come up, and I'll just throw these topics out at you. Well, one big topic that has come out just in a couple of conversations that I've had with chats with people. There's certainly been conversations or interest in foster care, cleanliness, questions around ringworm have come up this weekend. So just so you know, those are a couple of the hot topics that I've kind of felt in the virtual room. And right now I'll turn the mic over to you, to Larry, talk about implementing effective disease prevention and odor control. And thanks again.
Well, thanks a lot, Stacy. I'd like to thank Stacy and Kristen for giving me the opportunity to present today. Stacy said, my name is Larry Shively. I'm the owner of ProVetLogic. We provide educational support and product solutions to animal care providers nationwide, from shelters to rescues to zoos. We specialize in disease prevention and odor control. We're also a leading provider of products and protocols specifically designed for the care of cats, again, both large and small, tigers and house cats. And today I want to kind of go over the basic disease prevention and odor control protocols that can be used in a cattery, whether it's in a rescue shelter environment, a foster environment, and just cover the basics of things that that we've learned along the way. It's been very, very important to us. To the feedback we've gotten from shelters and people who have to, care for cats every single day. The first slide, what a cat can't smell, a cat won't eat. This is really the basis of our whole philosophy from day one. It's funny. My first experience in animal care came by accident about 15 years ago when I worked for a chemical manufacturer. We made pot and pan detergent, maybe disinfectants for schools, and had a customer who also supplied a very well-known zoo. And at that zoo, they were having difficulties with the big cats, the tigers mainly. For some reason, they weren't eating. And so they gave me a call. Don't know why, because I didn't know anything about this. And I lived in Orlando, Florida at the time, and had a good friend who was a veterinarian. I said, "Hey, Dr. Dan, you want a free trip? We're going to go visit a zoo. They're having issues with their big cats." The long story short is that when we got there and met with all their staffs and keepers and veterinarians, we realized the reason why the cats weren't eating was because they were using so much bleach that the tigers couldn't smell what they would normally eat. And we learned from that day on, whether it's a tiger, a house cat, a stray, anybody you feed, if they can't smell their food, most likely they're not going to eat it. So from that day on, we knew that more important than a product was education. And so when my wife Colleen, along with her friend John Langlois, started ProVetLogic 9 years ago, the first thing we wanted to look at, or the first thing we found really, was a total lack of products, disinfectants, and protocols specifically for cats. There were tons of things for dogs in a shelter environment, and so the cats were kind of secondary. Whatever we used for the dogs, we used for the cats. So, our mission from day one, and to this day, again, we're still finding new things. Our mission was to develop protocols and products that were specific to the care of cats, and especially in group environments, in the shelter, rescue, adoption, retail stores where they run adoption programs. So as I said today, we continue to come up with new protocols, learn new things from folks like you that we learn through Facebook and our website, and so we want to continue to learn along with you. The first thing we like to cover is how our viruses and bacteria, our parasites, transferred from one cat to the next. whether it's a shelter, vet hospital, even a zoo, people are the main transporter of diseases from one cat to the next. So let's look at some of these, what we like to call transporters. The first thing is touch points. There's a lot of things, we care for cats, like cages and carries, the normal things. The things that we expect every day we touch, we should disinfect them. But when you're in an environment like an animal shelter or retail store where you have lots of people coming in, touching doorknobs and handles, countertops, furniture, these are not things you normally think of when you're doing your protocols. But again, everything that a human touches after they touch a cat should also be cleaned and disinfected. So these not so obvious surfaces, there should also be attention paid to cleaning and disinfecting them as part of your regular cleaning protocol. The next thing we like to call vehicles: cart and cage wheels, shoes and boots, clothing. These are some of the things we also don't think of. Wheels that move from one area of a shelter or rescue to the next can carry disease and bacteria. Shoes are the number one transporters of disease from outside a care environment to the inside of a care environment. So whether it's a veterinary hospital or animal shelter, or whenever we do staff training, one of the things we tell them is, wear one pair of shoes to the facility and have a second pair of shoes in the facility. And that'll help minimize the transportation of anything that you can pick up outside and bring it into the facility. The next thing is clothing. This is something that's missed a lot, and I always like to tell this story to emphasize the importance of clothing and handling animals. We have a very large rescue group adoption center out west, and this place is big. They have lots of money, fortunately for them, and on a bad day they have 100 volunteers working in this facility. And I get a call from the director who is panicking. She's flying around the country raising money, and they have an outbreak of feline panleukopenia. And of course, the board of directors, they want to, change the program, stop using our products. So I took the opportunity to call the shelter manager, specifically the person in charge of the cats, and found out that what was happening was the volunteers, they were going into the room with the sick animals and holding them to comfort them, putting them back in the cage, and then going to where the well cats and doing the same thing, not realizing that one of the ways to transmit or transfer panleukopenia is on the clothing from one cat to the next. The other thing, they had no isolation area, no way to block off people from just walking in the door, going into where the sick cats were, and going over to another area. So we had to talk about that as well. The funny thing about it, when I talked to the director, she was so upset. She said, when I get back, I'm going to fire everybody. I said, well, you can't really fire them because they're volunteers. So it was just a basic thing that people miss. So be aware of that when you're caring for animals, next to you that are sick, that do not take that to the next area where the cats may be well, and it's an easy way to transfer a disease. The next thing are carriers. We all do this. We have cats, and they get sick. You take that carrier, put it in a nice carrier, take it to the doctor. Maybe they have to stay overnight for some type of a treatment or surgery. That carrier stays there. They put the cat back in. You bring it back home. Same thing when transporting well animals to an adoption event. Again, lots of people coming in there. So we highly recommend that when you have carriers, bringing them back from an event, bringing them back from the vet hospital, before they even go into your house near your other cats, you want to take them apart, disinfect them with a product that has the necessary efficacy. And we recommend just cleaning them, taking them apart if you can, and just letting them air dry. Leave them outside till they're dry. That's the best thing to do. And when people ask me about what about cloth carriers, simple answer: don't use them. Anything that's fabric or cloth will absorb moisture, which can absorb bacteria, and a great way to pass on a variety of diseases from one animal to the next. So make sure, again, when you're using carriers to transport animals from one area to the next or from one facility to the next, make sure you clean and disinfect them in between the trips. The next thing I like to talk about is what I like to call the first line of defense, and that's hand care. Um, Sometimes days go quick and you're dealing with lots of animals, but it is important to wash your hands. And obviously soap and water is the best thing in the world, but in reality, when we're out in the field working with animals and even in the shelter environment, water is not always available. So you want to make sure that you have hand sanitizer available. Uh, Although hand sanitizer in itself may not have efficacy for a lot of the diseases, it will get your hands clean and also start that process, that mental process of a good protocol. And that's what we really like people to think about. Place hand sanitizers. For instance, if I was going between, if I have cats in a retail store setting for an adoption, I tell folks to stick a hand sanitizer station right there where not only the volunteers who are coming in and clean that area, but even people coming into the store to look at the cats, just get their mindset going to sanitize their hands on a regular basis. And even when you're wearing gloves, people think, well, I'm going to wear protective gloves or surgical gloves, everything's okay. Well, those are also a way to transfer, disease from one cat to another. So your gloves have to be changed in between handling cats. So if you're going to wear gloves when handling a sick cat, although we've learned, I'm sure a lot of you have too, they're actually afraid of gloves, and so we try to, of course, minimize that as much as possible. But when we're dealing with sick cats, it's something we have to do. So make sure too that in between glove changes that you either wash or sanitize your hands in between those changes. We're going to talk about some chemicals that we've learned over time that you should avoid when dealing or caring for cats. As we talked about early on, as I started this business, a cat's sensitivity to smells from what they're going to eat or not eat. But the more serious concern is upper respiratory distress from the use of strong chemicals in the cat care environment. When I visit shelters, I visited shelters from Los Angeles to New York and everywhere in between. And the first thing I do when I go to shelters is to visit the cattery. I want to see the cats first. It's kind of different. Most of people I deal with or compete with in the industry want to see the dogs, but the cats are a great indicator of the whole facility from what we've learned. And what I'm looking for is, if you see the little, especially in kittens, little tear marks, little runny eyes, that's a good indication that there's a start of an upper respiratory. And so when you're looking to use different products in the cat environment, you want to avoid certain ingredients that have been known to help exacerbate or increase the upper respiratory in cats. And these are things like strong chlorine bleaches and certain peroxide-based products and strong acids. And also if you look at many of the disinfectants on the market today that are for the animal care world, I guess you could say, if in the name the word parvo is in that name, there's a good chance it's too strong to use near cats. So I ask people always to look at the product. If something bothers you when you use it, if it's a strong chemical, a strong smell, it makes it hard to breathe when you use it, I can tell you the cats are 10 times more sensitive to that. And so we, be very careful in the type of product or cleaners that you use. And also be careful that, we're in a lot of environments where they're very closed in with minimal ventilation and or airflow. Also be aware of that too. Even if you're spraying a product, it's staying in that room. So it's going to have an impact a negative impact on the animal themselves. When you're looking at products to clean and disinfect in the cat environment, the first thing you want to do is look at the ingredients. Make sure that product, number one, is EPA approved. There'll be an EPA number on that product. Look at the label or ask the supplier to provide you with a technical bulletin that lists the efficacy or the diseases, viruses, bacteria, supplemental organisms that specifically impact cats. And you see on the screen, I have a number of them that these are the ones we run across the most. And with, whenever I get a call from a shelter and they're dealing with ringworm, for instance, and they're cleaning every day. The problem is that the mindset is, so I've got stainless steel tables, I'm cleaning every day with a certain type of cleaner or disinfectant. What happens is, and people think, well, I'm caring for that animal on a stainless steel table, for instance, and so they're thinking, well, it's stainless steel table, so it's non-porous, it's not going to be a problem. Well, they're wrong. It's one of the things we teach. Any little scratch on the surface can hold enough organic matter to host things like ringworm or viruses or bacteria. So you want to make sure that the product itself is approved and tested for the diseases that specifically impact cats. And the company who provides that product or makes that product should be able to provide you with that information. So look for the list. And make sure those things on the left side mainly, these are things we run across the most, are listed somewhere on that label or on their bulletin sheet that they may have. And I got to make this point really clear. The animal care industry, we'll call it the animal health industry, is not as regulated as the human health industry. And so a lot of folks may say that their products are effective against panleukopenia, for instance. And most disinfectants are not. So you want to make sure that they are. So whether it's a product that's developed for human health care, a disinfectant, or for animal health care, all of them have to go through the same scrutiny, testing, and the only agency that can approve a disinfectant for use in human or animal health is the EPA. So make sure you do your research, regardless of what product you use, that it meets the standard that you want for your facility. Select the proper sprayer setting. This is probably the very first thing I do teach when we're working with staff during one of our what we call luncheon cleans, where we go in and everybody eats a lunch and we teach them how to clean in their facility. But this is the most important thing. Everybody uses a spray bottle. On a spray bottle, there are three settings: off, and there's a mist setting, and then there's like a spray or coarse, stream or coarse setting. You always want to make sure to use the coarse or stream setting on a sprayer because regardless of the product, and it's difficult especially in a shelter rescue environment. It's not like dogs where they can take the dogs out in the play yard and let them run around while they clean the kennels. We know we can't do that with cats. So you try to move them out of the area the best you can. But if you use your sprayer setting at a mist, although it may not bother you, that mist can migrate to a whole other area of the room and cause a problem for the cats. They're going to breathe these vapors in and of course create a potential for URI or upper respiratory illness. So always use that sprayer at a coarse. If you're going to use a sprayer, use it at the coarse setting or stream setting only. The next thing I really emphasize in my training is the development of a standardized protocol. This is probably the most important thing you're ever going to do, whether you're doing a rescue, running a program, adoption program at a retail store, a shelter, or even caring for cats in the home environment. You want to develop a consistent and standardized protocol. So once you've done that, once you find what works for you and you want your whole team or staff to use it, you want to write it down, laminate it if you can, and stick it on the wall. So say if you're running a program, and again, we get calls on this a lot where there are rescue groups who place animals in retail stores for adoption programs, and then they rotate, volunteers rotate in and out to clean after the cats because the retail store employees aren't going to do that, so you know that. So you're going to have to rely on volunteers. So you want to make sure that when they go into that area, everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's using the same product. And this is important because if you're following the same protocol and something happens and there's an outbreak, at least you'll be able to go back and pinpoint, you know, the break in the program. What aren't we doing right? But I can tell you, from all our experience working with big groups of cats and large shelters, once they follow a protocol, the chance of any what we call nosocomial illness, meaning a sickness from within that facility happening, is greatly reduced or eliminated. It's not going to stop a disease from coming in the door, obviously, but when you have a set protocol, you want to try to control any disease that happens within your facility. So that's why it's very, very important to develop a standardized protocol. So the next thing I'd like to do is, go over and review what we would consider good, standardized, and consistent protocol. The first thing, you do want to remove the cat from the general area. Again, it's difficult, I know, in a lot of situations that you can't take a cat to another room. That would be great, or put them in another area of the room or building. Doesn't always work, but you do want to try to move them away from what we like to call the immediate target area. We call it the target cleaning area. So you want to place the cat as far away as possible from that area. The next thing you want to do, you want to remove anything that the solution may come in contact with. And it doesn't matter what type of solution it is. You want to think about things that the cat may lay on, put in its mouth. You want to get that out of that area, which will allow you to do a very thorough cleaning. So again, anything, dishes, anything a cat toys would put in their mouth, get it out of the area. If they come in contact with whatever cleaning solution that you're using, make sure that you rinse them thoroughly and dry them thoroughly before putting them back into the area. So the next thing you want to do is, first thing I want you to notice something that's very important to us, and when we do our training. On that spray bottle, you'll see the word cat. This is especially important if you're caring for cats in an environment where there's also dogs, as you'll find in an animal shelter. So you want to make sure that you're using the right solution for the right animal. A lot of the disinfectants on the market today, you would use a stronger dilution for the dog, for canine parvo, for instance, than you would use for the cat. So we highly recommend that when you create a solution in a multi-species environment, that you label the product, the bottle, specifically for the solution for that animal. Cat, dog, we deal with birds, so you want to make sure that bottle is labeled specifically for that area, for that animal, and kept in that area. So again, that's something very, very, very important to us. So make sure you label those. When disinfecting, you want to first spray down all the touch points, as we talked about earlier. You want to spray everywhere the cat is touched, not just the surface of the cage, up the cage. You want everywhere the cat is touched or the staff has touched. You want to go ahead and spray and disinfect. This is what we again call the touch points. When you're wiping the surface down, you want to start from the back of the surface and towards the front. This will help you to minimize the chance of going back over the surface that has been previously cleaned and disinfected. So you want to work from back of the area to the front to reduce recontaminating the surface. And this also works well. We'll talk about in a second when you mop floors and when you're cleaning floors. So when you're wiping down the touch points, and again, I'm being redundant on this, it's imperative to wipe down everything the animal touches and everything that you touch. And so that'll go a long way to help reduce the spread of disease from one cat to the next. when you have heavily soiled surfaces or hard to reach areas, obviously you want to go ahead and use a good brush. And something we talk about all the time and recommend. Uh, you want to stay away from any type of cleaning tool that one has wood handles or natural bristles, because those types of tools can absorb moisture. So if they can absorb moisture, there's a good chance that they can harbor disease and odor causing microorganisms. So you want to find tools that are hopefully one piece, made of a synthetic material, and something you can wash, disinfect, or if possible, throw into your dishwasher at home to help disinfect those tools. And going back, as I said earlier, you should always focus on wheels. Um, this was real evident to me some years back. We were called by an animal shelter that was continually having an outbreak of an intestinal virus with their adopted cats. And they asked me to visit the location, and I did. And they had a really nice area where, in the daytime, they put the cats in a beautiful adoption room where you can go in and play with the cats, meet the cats. And at night, they would put these cats in a kind of a cage, a portable cage. And the manager of the cattery, I asked her, what she did each day from a disinfecting cleaning protocol, and she was very adamant that she rolled that cage outside every day, disinfected it, rinsed it, and brought it on back in. And as we were standing there, we looked down. The one thing she didn't do were the wheels. They were caked with gunk. It was like she was even shocked. Never paid attention to that. The problem is when she wheeled those cages from the well cat area to the outside, in and out, she had to pass through where they had the sick cats. So anything that has wheels that you're going to transport, even these garbage cans with wheels, make sure you disinfect them just like you would disinfect other surfaces. Now, when dealing with litter boxes, of course, everybody knows you want to clean and thoroughly disinfect litter boxes. Use paper towels, things that you can dispose of. But also, you want to make sure that you disinfect beneath the litter box. A lot of the cat condos or catteries we go to have those cages where the litter box drop into the floor. You want to make sure that when you pull that litter box out, that you disinfect the ridges where that drops in, underneath. Again, think about everywhere you touch, the cat touches, anything that comes out of the cat needs to be disinfected. So a lot of care needs to go into cleaning and disinfecting litter box. The next item we'd like to talk about is floor cleaning in a disinfecting protocol. Obviously, the first thing you want to do is get rid of all loose debris, cat hair, before you start the process. And most important, when you start, follow the dilution instructions of whatever product you're using for disinfecting the cattery floor. You want to find, again, the products that have the efficacy specifically for caring for cats. You also want to make sure that when you're preparing a mop bucket solution, that you never fill the bucket more than halfway. EPA standard, and again, this is a question we get all the time. When should I change my mop bucket solution? Well, according to EPA standard and guideline, as soon as that water becomes visibly dirty, you've lost your efficacy, so you have to start all over. So you'd waste a lot of money if you're filling that mop bucket all the way to the top. So just fill it halfway up, so when it gets dirty, you're going to want to dump that solution out, rinse the mop head, and make your solution. You don't want it to sit overnight. Again, you want to use the solution as soon as it gets dirty. You want to go ahead and dump that solution out. In the shelter environment, or where we work with folks with lots of cats and lots of floor area to clean, it can get really expensive when you have to mop and disinfect floors every day. So one of the little tricks we tell people is go to Home Depot and get one of those garden sprayers, those 1 gallon garden sprayers. Mix your solution, disinfectant solution in the sprayer. Then get your mop bucket and your mop. Just fill the mop bucket halfway with just regular water. Spray down the area, floor, underneath the cages, and everywhere you need to spray. Let your disinfectant set for about 10 minutes, and then just come back and mop the floor with just clean water. Once the water gets dirty, dump it out, rinse the mop, put more clean water in. This will do a couple things. One, the disinfectant will get in areas where you're probably not going to be able to get the mop under, cages or cabinets, and it's also going to save you a lot of money because the only thing you're dumping is dirty water. You're not dumping a lot of disinfectant, and not to mention the fact that it is also very, very good for the environment, or reduces the impact on the environment when you're not dumping a lot of disinfectant down the drain. So you want to make sure that's how you want to deal with your solution. And the same as wiping down a surface, you want to start your mopping process from the farthest part of the room, working your way back to the exit door to minimize the chance of walking back over an area you just disinfected. Once that disinfectant is dry, it's done its job. Disinfectants don't have a residual, so most you have to leave for 10 minutes. So it gets all the efficacy on the list. And again, once it's dry, after that 10-minute time, it's done its job. So once that's over with, the floor is dry, then you can go ahead and make sure, or you can go ahead and walk back over the surface. And you want to make sure that the surface is as dry as possible to eliminate any potential toxic reaction to the cleaner itself. We found that in working with a lot of experts in his area that, cats, whether it's a tiger or a little house cat, they're more susceptible to a toxic reaction to a chemical when it's absorbed through their pads of their feet as opposed to ingesting the chemical. So there has been we've actually received calls from folks, mainly pet owners, that their cats had died. They were using certain type of chemical, off-the-shelf type products. They mopped the floors, they're still wet, and they let their cats walk on it, and they've had a toxic reaction. What I tell everybody is that animals, cats, dogs, pretty much like us, we all react differently to chemicals. Some, people are just have allergic reaction to the most benign of cleaning solutions. Same thing with cats, or same thing with dogs. So the rule of thumb is get that surface as dry, or completely dry if possible, before putting that animal back on that surface to help reduce any possibility of a toxic reaction to a chemical. I also like to discuss feline upper respiratory infection. This is the number one thing we deal with, I think, just about on a daily basis, both with cats and dogs. When there's an outbreak of an upper respiratory illness, there are a number of viruses that will cause URI in cats, including feline calicivirus or FCV, feline herpes virus type 1. It's also known as feline viral rhinotracheitis, or FVR. Cats can enter a facility, some of them, that are carrying this type of disease. They're not showing it, but are carriers. So it's hard to tell a lot of times when the animals come into a rescue or adoption situation that they may be carrying these particular types of upper respiratory illnesses. So it's once it's discovered, the most important thing when you recognize it, immediately isolate the animal. Get away from all the other animals. The next thing you want to do is you want to increase airflow, and back and forth, not necessarily exhaust, but you want to, even if you have to, open windows when it's cold outside. You want to put fans. You want to move that air side to side, because it doesn't matter what type of cleaner or disinfectant or anything that you use. When it's an upper respiratory illness, it's going to be airborne, so you have to keep that air moving so it doesn't just land from cat to cat. So again, you want to recognize, isolate, and then increase your airflow. So that after you've done that, you want to create your plan of action for how you're going to disinfect or clean that area. Again, isolate the cat or cats immediately, increase that airflow, and then what you want to do is implement a consistent cleaning protocol, meaning that whatever protocol you have in place, everybody has to follow the same protocol. And so once you do that, you'll begin, the illness will begin to subside, and eventually you'll just move it out, out of your facility. So again, you want to create something that's consistent, and standardized. So everybody that walks into your facility, an employee, a volunteer, whoever it is doing it the same way every single time. Very, very important. So I guess my time, I was hoping to be able to answer any questions that you may have.
Hello. Yeah, so let me see here. Larry, thank you so much for the talk and the presentation. Let me scan some of the question. We have a lot of questions about, ingredients. So key ingredients, people are asking about eucalyptus, they're asking about vinegar. Any key ingredients that we should stay away from or should focus on having?
Well, if from a disease prevention standpoint, you're going to have to use a product that has been thoroughly tested and has the efficacy for the particular viruses that impact cats every day, like the Colleen, the panleukopenia, ringworm, and these things. There's not been any natural. There's really nothing natural that will do that. It's unfortunate. We all wish there was some. There's some environmentally friendly green product that will handle these diseases, but you've got that. There's two things you have to look at from a cleaning, disinfecting standpoint. The one is what we call biofilm, or what we call surface tension. So if you've got to have a clean or disinfectant that has the ability to have a detergent to break down that biofilm, so the active ingredient can attack the whatever virus or bacteria that may be on that surface. Whenever we deal with things like gastrointestinal viruses or ringworm, or any type of parasites, we normally find that even though people are cleaning every day, and they've got a pretty good protocol, and it keeps happening. The reason why is what we call a biofilm, which can build on any type of surface. And so if you don't break that down, that it just keeps representing itself. So you really need to have a product that's been tested and approved, especially approved by veterinarians, because this is something they're going to use every day to protect the animals that come into their hospitals.
Okay. I've got three sort of out of the box questions, but yet
Sure.
wanting to know your thoughts about, in thinking about products, we're talking about, are there different product considerations when you're talking about transport situations, foster homes, as well as also traps and trap equipment?
Well, again, it's you want to find my basic rule of thumb would be to find a disinfectant that deals with the viruses, these more community type of viruses, like we talked to panleukopenia, the feline AIDS and rabies and these type of things. So when you're basically dealing with the unknown. And so especially if you're dealing with stray cats, or you're dealing with cats that are being dropped off, or whatever it is. So whether it's a trap or whether transportation, you want to be consistent with the product you choose. So you almost have to go and think in the worst case scenario. So it's better to be more cautious, more proactive, in the product you select, as opposed to reactive. So choose a disinfectant with as many feline infectious agent kill claims or efficacy that you can find. And that's what you want to do. Because again, you and I both know we deal with, especially with shelters, we don't know what's walking in that door. So you want to go ahead and have something that, it's like the magic, vaccine, give them a vaccine that takes care of all the diseases. So you want to find a disinfectant that handles as many as possible. Very, very important.
I'm just going to directly read this question, and you'll probably understand it more. It says, the shelter medicine programs at the vet schools tell us they've done testing to show that quats don't kill panleukopenia. What product in your line do you suggest for panleuk?
Well, that's incorrect. That's old. They're right from a standpoint of old technology. What happened is that years ago, and this is what really impacted the shelter industry, there were many products on the market, disinfectants that had canine parvo claim, had panleukopenia claim, but they're neutral pH-based disinfectants. And over time, these diseases, these viruses have mutated to the point you have to have the ability to break through that cell structure. So what we used to be called single quaternary ammoniums that were neutral pH, they are correct. They will not have any impact on panleukopenia. The new technologies that have used dual quaternary ammonia technology with a higher pH, that's the key. It has to be a higher pH to break through the cell structure. So it has to be a disinfectant. And let me just say this: it's the EPA. There's only one test method, again, for any type of disinfectant, human or animal health. It's a very stringent process to get your product tested and approved for these infectious agents. But what's happened over the years is that, just like computers, they're getting better. They're changing. So it's single quat neutral pH technology. The person asked the question is correct. But the new technology of dual quat, higher pH products are effective and tested effective against panleukopenia.
We have a question about dishwashers. Do you have any specific requirements for type of soap, for heat? This person, it sounds like it's using just Finish Powerball Quantum and standard household hot water temperature. Is that sufficient?
Yeah. That'd be the greatest thing in the world. If you're caring for cats, and we do with our animals, we run of course, use stainless steel whenever possible, and run them through the dishwasher. We're finding some shelters now are actually bringing in commercial dishwashing systems so they can obtain that high heat. If you're in a situation where you don't have that dishwasher available to you, what you want to do is we recommend what we call the restaurant pot and pan process. This is the same process they'll use when you go to a restaurant and they clean their pot and pans in the back of the kitchen. So what you want to do is you want to take your dish, your food dish, you want to wash it in a regular dish detergent, whatever one you find over the shelf. That's kind of your first tub. The second tub, or you want to rinse it with clear water. And the third process is the most important. Again, you want to use as hot as water as possible, but the key is getting the detergent, rinse it, and then you want to have a solution of, and if you use a bleach, or there are products on the market as a sanitizer, you want to dip your dish in that sanitizer and let it air dry. That is, when you don't have a dishwasher available to you, that's the process you want. It's the same thing that the health department requires every restaurant in the United States. That's the process they make restaurants use. So if it's good enough for a restaurant, I think it's good enough, for dishes for our cats and dogs. So again, dish detergent, rinse in water. You don't soak it, you just dip it in your sanitizer solution, whether it's a bleach solution or an actual food service sanitizer, and let it air dry. Never, never, never soak anything. I don't care if it's stainless steel, whatever, do not soak it in a bleach solution or any type of sanitizing solution overnight. It will destroy your dishes over time. And you probably know we preach this too. Never use plastic. Just eliminate plastic altogether. So dishwasher, best thing in the world if you can
That's
do that.
great. Right. So let's have a chat about brooms and vacuums and when to use them and how to disinfect them.
That's a tough one. Obviously, let's go with the brooms first. The brooms are the easy one. You always want to select a broom that, number one, has synthetic bristles. You don't want anything wood. Handles. You don't want to use any of those, what they call the old corn brooms where, they're all natural bristles, because anything that can get wet will absorb bacteria. So find the, things that are made of all synthetic fibers. So this way, when you're cleaning, now you can wash them, spray your disinfectant, just kind of almost like your pet dishes. You want to, clean them, rinse them, spray them with a disinfectant, and let them air dry. Vacuum cleaners are a little bit trickier because it depends on what type of vacuum you're using. Because ideally, you'd want to be able to spray a disinfectant, when you turn that vacuum on, or you want to spray it right into the opening of the vacuum so it circulates through. There are some of these commercial vacuums, wet dry vacs and what have you. You can do that, but obviously that's a very, very difficult thing to do from a vacuum standpoint. So really, you'd almost have to, from time to time, when you do if you have a bagless vacuum like we have, we basically take the thing apart, pull the put a little filter in, and the plastic container, we'll take that off and wash and disinfect that, and then put it back together. It's tougher to do, obviously, if you have a lot of vacuums out there still have the throwaway vacuum bags. I don't do those. Try to use the canister type so you can pull off and disinfect as many of the parts as possible.
And do you recommend sweeping the room first and then vacuuming, or just,
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, if you can, you want to get up as much as the larger dog hair as possible. The other side of it, though, you also have to look at how many cats are in this area. Or in that particular area, so you want to minimize, a lot of cat hair blowing around. So it really depends on how much cat hair we're actually dealing with. Again, going back to the vacuuming, is that the more commercial vacuum with more lift or suction, that's what you want to go with. Something very strong, and pick it up so it doesn't move it around as much as just automatically removes it.
Someone's asking if you have any recommendations for good vacuum.
No, I mean, I owe anything commercial. And now there's vacuums out there that actually are kind of, in fact, we bought a cleaner with this, but they're actually the parts and pieces, things that are for pets. I kind of like, because the idea behind those is that you can take the parts off and clean and disinfect them. So I don't have any particular vacuum, but I tend to go with something that's more commercial and may have been designed for use around pets.
So we have a foster home who's sending in a question, really struggling with sanitizing a cat tree that's covered in fabric. And if buying a new cat tree with every litter is cost prohibitive. So do you have any thoughts or any miracle cures for that poor fabric covered cat tree?
This is a big one we get a lot. It's whether it's those or carpeting or, furniture. The problem is that disinfectants as a whole have no, once that surface is very porous, you lose a lot of efficacy. So the more porous the surface, something with padding, you spray a disinfectant, it needs a good bond on that surface for as long as possible. Now, from a cat tree standpoint, based on the construction, if it's the construction of that cat tree is such that it's a very thin type of carpeting on a mounted on a hard surface, you can get away, with using a disinfectant that doesn't have a heavy residual. And I would recommend using something that's more ready to use, so there's no mixing, and spray it on. anytime we have carpet or those services, we tell people when they call in here, call one of the Stanley steamer. You use hot steam, just like in the dishwasher. You want to use something hot to steam it out. But I really think with the cat trees that we have, and I got one right here with my cat, my office actually. It's a surface that, because it's not as porous as regular, some type of a pile carpet or a sofa. You get away with it. I think you get away with disinfecting it, cleaning it, and then spraying it and letting it air dry. You should be okay.
Do you suggest a particular cleaner that would work well for traps that would have no residual detectable scent for the cat?
Well, of course, this is what we do for a living. So, when we created our disinfectant, the fragrance that we have in our disinfectants, they smell nice when you use them, but they dissipate quickly. So there's no residual smell, and we did that so when you use the product, it's going to smell nice, but when it dries, there's no more smell. So it does. When we originally did, we did it for two reasons. One, in thinking about dogs, because we work with a lot of dogs that are the ATF or police departments training dogs, so they can't have anything that will impede the olfactory sense. So that was something we were thinking about, and then we started working with cats. We wanted to have a fragrance, so when you spray it on, it's there. It smells nice for a few minutes, then it dissipates. So our particular disinfectants, we have a ready to use in a concentrate. Once it dries, it has no smell at all.
Someone's asking a question about if there's any recommendations with regards to fleas in a space.
Well, fortunately, I'm not our disinfectants from our standpoint, from a cleaning standpoint, have no impact. So really, that would have to be someone who would, from an insecticide standpoint, and if they're just talking about eradicating or controlling fleas, I'm assuming
Right.
that would have to be someone who has expertise in that area.
Right. Someone's asking a quick question here about should we be using stainless steel litter boxes?
Well, that's interesting. I didn't even. You know what? If you can, I would use them. Because anytime you use plastic of anything, it's gonna absorb. It's gonna scratch. I think it goes back to how often you clean and disinfecting. And in a shelter environment, obviously, they're just stainless steel would be wonderful, but it would just be very costly. So it's obviously anytime you can have something like a stainless steel that doesn't absorb as much moisture, man, that would be a dream come true. But again, you're still going to have to clean them, because even with stainless steel, as soon as the cat that gets scratched, you still have that scratch is enough to hold parasites or any type of bacteria or ringworms. So it's still going to have to you're going to have to clean it as much. But with stainless steel, probably a lot less. So I think stainless steel would be better if they were readily available, at a good cost.
I remember, Larry, when we were back and we did our podcast together, and I checked out your website, you had a huge educational section, and education's very important, and not necessarily, just for your clients or your customers. Maybe share with our folks a little bit more about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a number of different things. And totally no charge. Anybody can go on our website at ProVetLogic.com, and you're going to see a tab, an educational tab at the top. And when it comes down, there's going to be a variety of different things from what we call hot zone bulletins. There's going to be we actually now have a page on our website specifically for cats. So when you go to that tab for the cattery, it'll have all kinds of educational things on it. There's a little manual in there, cat-specific efficacy or protocols, I should say. And we also have online educational programs that are free. Where you go on and it's narrated program, and it'll print, if you pass the test at the end, which you should, it'll print your name on the certificate. So it's great when if you're running a foster or you're running a rescue or shelter adoption program and you're having volunteers and staff. This is a great way they can do it at home. They're very easy, kind of redundant, but they're great for your staff to access and learn some just very basic disease prevention and odor control protocols. And like I said, you can go on our website at ProVetLogic.com, or you can always send me an email at L Shively, Shively at ProVetLogic.com, and I can point you to all the different things that we have from an educational standpoint.
One last quick question, because I missed it and I'm scrolling back up here. Is it true Lysol should not be used around cats?
Yeah, well, more Pine Sol than Lysol. And the Lysol that's more the old-fashioned type with the old Lysol was made with lye, which is liquid caustic soda, and so you want to be careful there. Just like even with Pine Sol, there's the old Pine Sol that's still around that actually has pine oil. You keep that away from animals. Same thing with Lysol. So you want to always either read the ingredients, go on their website, make sure that those products have been tested safe for animals. There are some products that people on the market that used to be on the market and have changed over time, where you would just think, oh, these are great for animals, and found out that they're not. So it's important that because there are so many Lysol, Pine Sol products now, do a little research. Take the time to go on their website, pull up their ingredients, their safety data sheet. It's a disinfectant, they've got to provide you a list of all of the efficacy and if it's safe to use around animals. Very important to do that.
Excellent. All right. I'll just ask one last quick question. Do you sell your cleaning products to individuals, or is it just to like corporate clients or to shelters?
Oh, no, actually, we sell to everybody. The best place to find our product for home use would be on Amazon because the free shipping, which is great. You can go on Amazon and you put in ProVetLogic. There's a whole catalog of our products on there. So we have a lot of inquiries we get. We don't mind these inquiries. We welcome them from pet owners all over the country. Also, actually, all over the world. I just got one from Japan recently, and so Amazon for home use. You can go on our website. You can purchase from us. But if you just want a smaller bottle and have a Prime account, free shipping, Amazon's the way to go. We have our own catalog on Amazon at ProVetLogic.
Excellent. Well, Larry, this is wonderful. What a great presentation. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you'll stay on and check out the next presentation on how to start a cat cafe.
I thought that's kind of cool. So one just opened up somewhere in Alabama, I believe. So I'll be curious to see how that's going.
Well, and the Cat Cafe Hayden she's in Georgia, so she's in the Atlanta area. So she's sort of close, not too close, but sort of close.
About 3 hours from me.
So Larry, thanks so much, and
thank you guys.